All right. Welcome, everyone. We are going to talk about basically audition priorities. This was actually inspired by a conversation I had with Christian earlier this week. And it was just about how, we need to prioritize. The way we need to prioritize is just going to be different for everyone. So there isn't just a one size fits all solution because, we all have different strengths. We all have different weaknesses. But the one thing that kind of unites everyone is just the fact that we just have to be prepared, right, for the audition that we want. Um, and you join this group for a reason, right? You want to make like the group that you want, basically. And so just is this just kind of like a checklist, a kind of prioritization of things that you need to do to basically just do really well and just feel prepared because yeah, I've been to a couple auditions where I felt, not the best, and it was only because, I just didn't prioritize my time. So, hopefully, this will help a little bit, just kind of allocating time from now till auditions. I'm gonna attach a document, and on any questions that we have on here, there I just wrote a little document so you can kind of fill in. Um, yeah, basically. But yeah, let's get started. And then again, feel free to stop me whenever you want, Christian. Um, Cool. So all this really is just trying to have tunnel vision on what you need to do right now till the audition. Right? There's just a lot of things that we need to check off, and just getting a clear vision on what you need to do is just it makes time feel like it's in your control rather than like you trying to like always catch up. And that's really why um, you don't feel prepared when you are there at auditions. And that's why some people feel like they are always like catching up because they just don't allocate their time very wisely. Um, and so you just want to do it in the most impactful way, right? It's just like what one thing can I do to kind of leverage my time the most? And really what it comes down to is just these six things, which is just you're trying to get the packet done. You're trying to also work on your fundamentals to work on the packet. You're trying to also get better at reading because there is sight reading, or there might be things that you just get, you know, like on the spot, um, which you need to like just improve that reading skill. And then visual, which is just all the marching stuff, which we haven't really been talking about in this group, but I would argue that it's like just as important as the playing because one thing that I always think about is, if you have someone that is a great player, but their feet are always at a time, or they're getting their feet kind of like even 80% of the time, um, that is just like a red flag to any group. Like it doesn't matter what group you're auditioning for. Like that is like a no go basically, especially in world class. So visual is like really, really important. And I do intend to bring some visual people in just so that we can get a little insight into like Vis, and not just drumming stuff because yeah, it's really important. Nerves, how well do you do under pressure? Do you need like there's ways to practice the nerve kind of aspect of auditions. So yeah, nerves and then technique, right? How well is your technique? Do you need to fix anything? Is there anything that's obvious? I'm not really too big on this one just because as long as you're not doing anything crazy bad, like anything that is like hindering you producing sound or producing any rhythm, then I'm not really too like your hand needs to be perfect because we all have different kind of size limbs and everything. But this one's a big one because it can stop you from literally doing fundamentals, doing the packet, so technique is like a really important one. And so all we really need to do is just how we have to prioritize. It's just answering some like a set of questions, and these aren't like the the best set of questions, but these are the most impactful questions that you can ask yourself because they are tailored to you. Okay, so um, what comes the easiest out of those six, right? So you might be a really good reader, or you might, learn packets fast. You might have your fundamentals really down, but it takes forever to kind of learn a packet, or maybe your vis is not as, up to par with your playing. What comes the easiest to where you don't have to spend much time on it, right? You have limited time. And so if you spend a lot of time on things you're really good at, then the things that you're really bad at just kind of get this kind of range gets bigger and bigger, right? You get better at the better things, but then you get worse at the bad things, right? And so what do you struggle with, right? Like I said, Technique might not be your forte, or marching might not be your forte. Like, these things you need to know, because it means that you just have to allocate all your time to that. And if you don't know what you struggle at, or you don't know what you're good at, just do these things, like play some fundamentals, play the packet, march a little bit, and you'll quickly find out like where you kind of lie in that range. So if you don't know, just try all these things, try all the things, and then see where you kind of line up. And so to get back to the checklist, now I just want you to just number everything, right? I just want you to number everything. What needs the most work and what needs the least work, right? What do you think you're really good at? What do you think you suck at? List them out, because this is going to be your basically your prioritization checklist on what you need to do from now till the audition, right? And these things will change, right? You might spend a lot of time on fundamentals, and it might drop down. So this is just like a ongoing, ever growing list of things that you need to do. Um, but in your current state right now, just list out what you feel like you just need to work on, and what you don't need to work on. Okay. And then after you have that list, how much time do you have to, allocate to these things? Um, if you put the date of right now and you put the date of the audition, how much time do you actually have? I think for a lot of us, if we're doing it today, auditions it kind of ranges, but it goes closer to like November, December, and that gives us like a month or 2 months to basically. Hopefully, you're not starting from scratch. Like, how to drum, obviously. Maybe an exercise. You've been marching a little bit, so you're not starting from scratch. But what do you need to do to kind of like get there in the most I'm not gonna say easiest way, but in the most clearest way? Because if you're not if you're not if you're not getting to that goal, there's something that happened on the way, right? You didn't prioritize right. You didn't have enough time. You were doing other things. It's just, at the end we'll talk about it even more, but like, you can go to these auditions and go in the mindset of learning, or you can go in the mindset of making it. And those two things are like really important to know, because if you want to go to learn, then you have a different mindset, rather than trying to make it, right? So, um, yeah, how much time do you have, basically? How much time can you consistently put in 5 to 7 days? So this is a big one for me because, oh, sorry, this is a big one for me because um, consistency is like super, super important. If you go to the gym 5 to 7 days for about 2 months, you're gonna see massive progress. But if you go to the gym 5 to 7 days, in a month, you're just not going to see as much progress, because you're constantly defeating, you're depleting, and then you're constantly improving. So it might feel like a big jump in the beginning, because you're like, oh, I have this so much energy, I have so much motivation, I'm going to go to the gym, and then you stop going, you're not going to see as much progress. So I made this little graph, basically just showing you how that looks like visually, right? You might feel like you improve a lot, and then you improve a lot, on the second day, but then you don't practice, and then you just consistently get worse. You don't practice. You get up and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I made so much improvement." But then because you don't practice, you go back to baseline. So, it's practicing is not this like it's not you don't have to put in a lot of hours at one time, because you can only improve so much in one sitting, right? You need to kind of space it out so that you get better every day, and it just compounds. Because when it compounds, you'll see a lot of the progress, and you'll feel a lot of the progress, because day to day you can wake up horrible, you can wake up great, but the one thing that is consistent is if you put in like 30 minutes a day, or an hour a day for 60 days, the amount of progress you'll feel on that 60th day is like tremendous, compared to like kind of practicing and kind of doing this, kind of doing that. You just have to put in the work, like put in the time, put in the work, and then we can talk about practicing better. But you need to know what it feels like to actually put in the work, to even deviate from that. Um, so that's my little thing, is like, you just have to do it consistently, and you don't have to necessarily do it every day, right? You can do it 5 times, 4 times. Um, yeah, but it has to be consistent, right? Going back to our checklist. we are gonna basically write down the 3 points, the 3 things that we need to do in each point or in each category to essentially feel accomplished. And these are the 3 important things in each thing. So even if you don't need to work on, nerves, there's still 3 things that you can do to kind of like improve or really, really drastically kind of change that trajectory of being nervous. Cool. So the first thing is the packet, right? This could be the 3 hardest exercises in a packet. This could be 3 hardest bars. This could be 3 hardest lines. Like 3 things that you feel like are gonna have um, are gonna really make you struggle. Okay. And this kind of goes in hand with the fundamentals because we can talk about, why are those bars hard? There probably is a fundamental that you're not getting. But in its core, 3 things that you feel like you need to improve on in just the packet, right? Um, and then 3 fundamentals, right? 3 fundamentals, 3 things that are part of the fundamental series that you just are not getting. You know, for a lot of us, it's hybrid rudiments, right? So how do we break down hybrid rudiments to like the simplest form and then building up from there? Um, I know for a lot of the lessons I've been giving, it's been trying to basically start from like the easiest point, and then which is my recommendation to you is like any 3 things that you put, try to break it down to its simplest form and then break it up. So like how I would think of it is like if I'm working on flam drags. Okay, flam drags consist of downstrokes, twitch strokes, diddles, upstrokes, taps, accents. So like you have all these things that are part of that, and you just got to build it up, right? Maybe do a flam breakdown, or maybe just do downstrokes, accent tap. Maybe just do twitch for a couple times. Maybe there's ways to do it. Where if you have trouble with it, like please ask me because I feel like that is my forte of just like breaking stuff down to its simplest form and then building it up, kind of like how you would do like in a video game, like just level 1 to level 10 being the hardest, obviously. So fundamentals, it's just another way of breaking it down and then building it back up to kind of make our brains a little um, kind of understand it a little more better. And then the next one is reading, which is the call we'll do later today is basically about this, like reading, general reading, and sight reading, basically. And those 2 things kind of go hand in hand. I'm not going to talk too much about it because we're going to talk about it later, but like the better you can sight read, the better you can read, and the better you can stay in time, the better you have to not think about it as much, basically. And so rhythms are like very black and white, right? So you're either getting it wrong or right. And during specific auditions, you might get something that day, you might get something the night before, you might get something, in the audition room, like just sight read. There's just a lot of things that are built around this that are super important. Like I remember um, Jared Baltazar was talking about at Broken City, like Roger Carter basically gave this an etude like the first day, and then like you just had to learn it that night. You got home at maybe 10, and then auditions are at 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning the next day. So it's like if you think about if you're better at reading and sight reading, you basically give yourself an advantage over other people because you have to spend less time to work on it, and because you can play a lot easier, right? Like what might take other people 2 or 3 hours put you 1 hour, like you learned in 1 hour, then you get 8 hours of sleep compared to like 5 hours of sleep. So it's like it goes down this kind of like line of like if I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. So like the reading thing, it becomes really important when it's like high stakes. Like how many things can you learn? I remember like at Broken City, like we would get basically like the whole movement or chunks of movements like Saturday, and then we would have to basically put it together like everyone by like the second block. So it's like if you don't know how to read, then that becomes like such a daunting task to do, and it becomes like a scary thing to do because you don't know how to read, or maybe it just takes you a little bit longer. So these things are really important because when you're in it, you have to put yourself like if you are in your dream group, like those things just become natural to other people, and so you need to build it up if you don't have that skill. And I didn't have this skill either, but I've been reading for so long that now it's just like language, right? It's like me reading a book. It's like if I read something that's musical with rhythms and even notes like on a like piano, like it becomes so second nature because I've been reading for so long. We don't really talk about it in here, but marching is such a muscle that needs to be developed. Um, and not only marching, but marching and playing, which is like the big one, because especially during drum corps, it's really the only thing you're doing when you're marching. You're marching and playing. Um, so spend some time with marching. If you are not marching in a group, or you don't have the time, or you didn't have the time to kind of delve into the marching, this is like a great time to do it because um yeah, the only way you get better at marching is marching, basically. Like the only way to get good at that is just to do it a lot of times. And you might look silly, like if you're marching in public. Or one thing I told Christian was like I used to march on a treadmill. Like when I'd go to the gym, like if you're on a treadmill, you just march and you can cover a lot of distance without actually like moving. And so you just spend a lot of time like perfecting that technique. Um, but it's a muscle. It's the same muscle like you built to play. Like like marching is that same muscle where you have to just do it consistently for a long period of time. And for a lot of people, they get the benefit of, if you joined marching band freshman year and you went all the way to senior year, you have that benefit of doing that for 4 years. And so that muscle gets built pretty fast. But, some people don't have that muscle, and some people maybe started later. Maybe some people didn't march anywhere after high school. So they like stopped, right? Anytime you stop something, you just get worse by nature, right? Because you're not working on it. So 3 things that you need to improve in your marching. And for a lot of us, it's going to be, um, crabbing, obviously. But then the other aspect is like marching and playing. Like playing on a drum pad, playing on a drum. When I'm marching, when I'm doing something that requires me moving and playing, like that sound needs to be like the same. I always talk about like musician from the waist up and then athlete from the waist down. The more you can be an athlete from the waist down, you don't have to think about all the physical things that come with marching because you're so autopilot with like the marching, and you're so strong and you can carry yourself that the drumming like sits on top of that in this kind of nice kind of a like cloud basically. Um but again, if you don't know what you need to improve on, like send videos of you marching in the group. Like the only way to kind of get better at marching is like seeing yourself march and seeing how other people march. Um, you might look silly, but it's okay. So visual is like a really big, really, really, really big one. Um, Nerves. There's ways to get better at nerves, and you want to basically lean in to first what you're comfortable with, and then explore what you're uncomfortable with. For me, I took a lot of orchestral auditions, so that was like really nerve wracking to me because um, for orchestral auditions, you have to have like basically like no nervous hands, no shaky hands, because if you play like a concert snare, you have to be really delicate, and if you're not, then you can kind of hear that. With marching, it's not as delicate, but it's just as nervous because at least with orchestral auditions, you're just basically in front of a panel, but with marching auditions, you're in front of a panel and you're in front of everyone that you're going to audition with, which is like so weird. It's like it's the only audition where that really happens. Um, or like that kind of environment is also really prevalent in dancers, because dancers, when they audition somewhere, they'll dance in front of other people that are auditioning for that spot. I know like cheerleaders go through that same thing. um, but the only thing is like dancers are so confident in their movement that it just doesn't feel like an audition compared to drummers that get really scared when they get play in front of people. Like there's people that I've heard play individually that like I felt shocked, like in a good way and a bad way, like because they still kept that confidence. And then people that have like really changed their sound like tremendously because they're like really shy and really scared. It's not that they're a bad drummer, but it's the fact that they haven't prepped themselves for that scenario, because when they play by themselves, you know, it's such a big difference of sound that it's not a good representation of what they actually are in terms of drumming. But there's ways to kind of alleviate that. The best ways to record yourself, just constantly record yourself, drumming in front of your friends, in front of your family, um, like trusting like one or two people that, if you do make a mistake, they don't make fun of you. That's like a really big one because that confidence can kill you slowly. if you have people just like, not on your team basically. Um, you can Yeah, there's so many ways. There's one way that I've mentioned it to some members, but I used to go out to like a busy street and like work on basically the whole packet and just like people pass by, look really weird at me, but it just really doesn't matter because you're getting that you're getting thrown in the deep end basically like on of how many people are watching you play. So just three ways that you can alleviate those nerves is going to be really important. It could just be like visualization, right? Just visualizing yourself being in that room, um, or maybe reading a book on how bananas help you get unnervous. Like that's true. Like if you eat bananas, like it can get you a little less nervous. Yeah, just different things. It's all like going from what you're comfortable to not comfortable. But just first start off with things that you are comfortable with, so that it doesn't feel like a very daunting task to go drum in front of everyone when you've never drummed in front of one person. So nerves, a really big one. Technique. Like I said, I'm not really big on this, but there are things that are really obvious, especially if you didn't have an instructor in high school, or if you did have an instructor in high school that was like a little more old school. Like these technical things, like are really prevalent with if you just graduated high school. If you didn't just graduate high school and you're a little older, then these things are really hard to manage because you've built this habit of doing this thing this certain way, and getting out of that is really hard to do. But if you have the time and you have the conscious effort to do, you can break any habit, any technical habit, right? Um, One big one is changing grips, right, when you're playing. Another big one is being too firm, being too like closed in the hand and not letting the stick breathe. Um, there's a lot, but try to list out three. Try to just improve it one by one, because especially with technical improvements, like there's only one way to get better at it. It's through literally just checking down the list. Like I need to do this every day. Like I need to think about it every day. I need to not squeeze my thumb when I do this. And if I squeeze my thumb, then I have to restart and do it again. It just you've conditioned yourself to do something bad or good. So all the bad ones you just need to like be really conscious about. Um, cool. Which brings me to like the end of it, which is we just need to reverse engineer what we want to do, right? What do I need to accomplish this month to be on track? List out the things that you would envision yourself doing without being too adventurous, being more realistic. Like what skills and what tools do I have right now, and what skills and tools do I need to have in a month? And if it's like I don't have anything and I want to have everything, that is just not it's just not possible, right? If there's just so much time in the day, or there's not as much time in the day, and you don't have, to go from 0 to 100 is hard basically. So just get to a middle ground where you can, really feel confident after hitting all these checkpoints after a month, after or and what do I need to do this week, to feel that confidence. And if you don't hit that, it's fine because you've set a kind of realistic goal to where if you don't meet that, you still improve in a better fashion. Cool. Um, and then what do I need to do today? Right. So just really thinking about like niching down like this funnel into like today is the most important day to fix something, and then just think about the next day, next day, next day, and then hopefully if you just do that every day consistently, in a month you'll just be like unrecognizable, like basically with the sound and your technique and everything. Um, Point four, visualize how prepared you'll be. Basically, like envision yourself what you will be like when you're at auditions. Are you still like worried about this one bar? Are you thinking about, this guy being better than you because he sounds better than you? Are you thinking about, oh, I didn't prepare myself enough for the sight reading portion, or I just got this exercise today and I just don't know how to do it? Like be prepared for anything, and how prepared you'll be. Like if you got something new, obviously you'll be nervous about it because it's a hard thing to do, but you've prepped yourself so well that you can kind of go through that in a more kind of eased manner. Um, yeah. Next one, if you master your fundamentals, how will you feel? You know, Majority of all these things are just the fundamentals of something, right? Marching, the fundamentals of marching. If you can get the fundamentals of marching, you'll be a better marcher. Playing. If you get the fundamentals of playing, you'll be a better player. If you get the fundamentals of how nerves work, you'll be better at nerves. If you get the fundamentals of technique, you'll be better. Like everything is brought down to fundamentals. Like that's just how it is. I'm a big Kobe fan. Kobe spent so much time on fundamentals. He practiced like 5 hours. He would literally do like 4 hours of fundamentals. And so if Kobe's doing it, like we should all be doing it for sure. Um, and it's something that I wish I did more when I was younger, but I spent a lot of time with fundamentals and when I was marching, basically. And then consistency, right? Try not to let yourself go. The max days that you should, not work on something is 2. Even 1 is like pushing it. Or 2 is pushing it, it should be 1. But get to a place where you can like consistently build upon a skill because there is sometimes where people will work on something and they don't work on something for a couple days and it gets better. And those things happen because your brain needs to like solidify information and your muscles need to remember how those feels and like you just need to like basically download this program into your body. But for the most part, if you're not in the space you want to be, you need to do a lot of that so that when you do take a break, it kind of downloads that information in your body, basically. So it only happens through consistency. Like you need to be consistent with the work. Um, and yeah, like that is just the consistency part is like on you as a person, right? It's nothing on anyone else. Consistency only works if you put in the work. And the more excuses that get built up, the you won't put in the work, right? So be vigilant about like the days that you do miss because it's really important. You need to know why you missed them. Did you miss them because you were busy? Was there something that you could have allocated to a different day or an earlier day? It these things are really important because the consistency part is like the part that I feel like people miss out a lot. Um, and you see these with football players too. It's like when football players don't get signed to like a team, um, they'll basically be either doing nothing and hoping that a team will pick them up, or they practice and strength train and build their stamina up like they're on the team without actually being on the team, right? So because you're technically a free agent, if you're not marching, how well are you going to spend that time? Are you going to prepare like you are on a team or in a group, or are you going to be a free agent that is like on the couch like hoping that someone will pick them up, right? So it's just being proactive about what you do every day and just asking yourself like if you do miss, like why did you miss? Using the group. Use the group. I'm seeing less and less people use the group, and this is not fault to anyone, right? People are busy. People have other priorities. Um, but you joined the group for a reason, and you pulled the lever on being in the group. There's only 13 or 14 people in the group. So you're 13, 14 people out of thousands of drummers that wanted to be better, basically. And so just remember that feeling you had when you joined the group and see if you can rekindle that. Just use the group a little more. Um, yeah, that's basically it. That is basically it. And so I'm gonna just talk about this a little bit because this post was made a bit ago, but it's the goal setting. If you haven't really read this, read it because it's really important. Like it's I'm telling you, it's something that I do most days. It's just like make sure that I'm on track to my goal. And people do goal setting wrong. Like goal setting, I want to do this. Okay, how do you do that? That it's just like a very like lazy way to do it. Just go through this checklist. I'm gonna eventually do like a presentation on this because there's like so much to talk about it, but just be crystal clear on everything. Like what do you want? Why do you want it? When do you want it? How do you want it? Where do you want it? Like where do you need to be to achieve it? And if you go through this checklist, like you'll make your life so much easier to auditions, like because you put in so much work and thought about it that when you're at auditions, like the reasoning behind being there is like so much more powerful than people that are just there because their friends are there. So go through that. I really recommend going through that because it's super important.